Welcome. This is the Chicago Communicated News Media On Point. We have our special guest this evening, Miss Andrea Raila and Mr. Anthony Travis. They're going to talk to us about taxation. Now, Anthony,
Yes,
you
ma'am.
know Andrea very well. I want you to give us the intro for her so that we understand fully who it is you brought to the table for us to listen
Well,
to this evening.
let me say this. I think when I listen to Reuben Fellows sometimes,
Yes.
he makes the point that without good white folks, there would be no Underground Railroad. Okay?
All right.
And we have to keep that same perspective when it comes to that taxation
Yes.
because she's the only woman I know who have put it on the line
All right.
for quite a while.
All right.
And not only that, she is a historical figure because of the 1970 Constitutional Convention that she speak highly of.
Oh.
And at that convention happened to be our downfall as a state because all of the issues that we're talking about
Yes.
was created back in 1970 at that convention.
See?
And what she do for a living came out of that convention because that's when they came up with this whole issue of property taxes, home rule, and people home rule have been ran into the ground by a lot of municipalities.
Yes.
That's why some municipalities, the people fight against it.
Okay.
But it's here, and until we can have a constitutional amendment to fix some of these crises, the crisis is going to be with us. But the point is, we all have to begin to understand we have some serious issues when it comes to property tax. I speak highly of Angela because she's true blue.
And I agree with him. I just recently met Andrea, but she is a dynamic tax consultant. This lady, I have had property at 65th and Morgan. You know about it, Roxy, for years. And I just could not get rid of that property. Just seemed to be in some kind of a loop. But this lady helped me identify what I needed to do to rid myself of that property and to give ownership back to the mortgage company who had taken it back anyway. But they would just let me pick up all the taxes. They would just let me pick up all the fees. Andrea, tell us what we need to know about taxes. What do we need to know? Why are we being so, we're just being abused by the system? Tell us what we need to know and what we can do to help ourselves.
Well, the Black and brown community has always been stepped on by property taxes because they have the highest tax rates and they have the least voice. And, Anthony Travis and I, the tax doctor, that's his name. He has been, this guy doesn't get paid. This guy goes across the state to advocate for property tax reform.
Yes.
And all the way down to Springfield and up in all these Cole County and everything else. So he's one of our, I feel like I'm in the same regiment with him. We're both two tax soldiers, but we got to grow that regiment. And I believe that one of the first things we did that got on the news was the fact that there's a lot of foreclosures in the South suburban areas, and all of Cook counties, all 101 counties are allowed to take in consideration those foreclosures and then use that in their reassessment of those neighborhoods that have so many vacancies and abandoned homes so that you don't get these high increases. But only Cook County does not allow for that. And 75% of the foreclosures are coming out of the South suburban. And I think we had a fair elected officials. We have a bill in asking for them to let Cook County Assessor look at those foreclosures and tread lightly and gently on the South Suburban homeowners because of that plight that they're in. But I don't see anybody advocating that from the assessor's office, but they may come on board slowly. But what we did as a group, we studied about the COVID reductions,
Okay.
you know, and just very quickly, the COVID reductions were a 10% reduction in most properties, homeowners, and 2 flats and 3 flats. They were about 10% across the board to 96% of all properties, but they were across the board to every kind of property owner. Now he based this, the assessor based this on the fact that if there's unemployment rate, it's going to depress your market values, but that really hasn't happened. Market values haven't plummeted out in the suburbs and in the Chicagoland area. But he gave these tax reductions, COVID tax reductions that will show up on your July, August, second installment tax bill. And he gave them to people who own $1 million homes, multi-million-dollar homes.
And they didn't need them.
And they don't need them.
Wow.
We have one property up in Winnetka. It is $27 million. The assessor reduced it for 10% of a oppression on his market value of his home, and he's going to get $69,000 taken off his.
That is just ridiculous. Ooh.
And you know, even the governor got a major tax cut, and I don't think he even wants it. None of these people really recognize that they got it. And some of, you know, even the governor got a $25,000 tax cut on his Astor Street mansion that has a market value of $14 million. You didn't need to give those multi-million-dollar properties in Winnetka, Kenilworth, Barrington Hills, Burr Ridge. You didn't need to give them a 10% unemployment cut that's going to depress their market values. What we're seeing is when we looked at all those multi-million-dollar mansions, 1 million, the highest is at 26 million, 25 million, and all over. They were getting, and they are getting $25 million in tax cuts that are called COVID relief. Now, do you know what the school district could do with $25 million?
Yeah.
Do you know what the Inglewood Charter School or the Austin Community Schools, all these Black and brown communities that are struggling with their schools, they can't get special ed support, they can't get, you know, notebooks, iPads. You take that $25 million from that 1% of the wealthiest, and you can allocate that to those most vulnerable. So it is actually a shame that it turned out this way, and it yet has hit the news. But I'm hoping that a team of us will get together and get it in the forefront so that the Black and brown community can see how horrible it is to give 10% cut to someone with a $20 million home and a 10% cut to somebody with a $150,000 home. You've got a $200,000 home, you're going to get maybe $500 in tax relief.
Yes.
Are you telling me that if you own a $14 million home, you should get a $25,000 tax relief? It's completely was not thought out. It was not thought out well. He wanted to be uniform and say, I'm going to give it to everybody across the board, but you can't give it to these multi-million. He could have sent a letter out to them and said, send a letter to me telling me how your home is being affected by COVID and unemployment, and I'll consider that evidence to give you a tax break. Tax break should go to the most vulnerable, to the people paying the highest property taxes because they're paying the highest tax rates. And just beyond just giving COVID relief to these multi-millionaires, and it's going to come out in the media. It'll be covered. But the voice of that is going to come from the Black and brown community as a coalition saying that this is not right. You don't give those hard-earned monies away, and you only give them away to people who are in the most vulnerable position. The people who are essential workers on the front lines are people that cannot go to work because their restaurants have been shut down, the hotels have been shut down. that there's also something called a senior freeze. Now, many people know that if you turn 65 and you have an income that's only 65,000 or below, you can get what's called the senior freeze. The senior freeze can save you a lot of money off your property taxes. And it should be given to people who are vulnerable. Because Wanda, why would anyone, the state of Illinois advocate giving senior freezes on their property taxes when they're 65 and only make 65,000 or less? Why would they come up with that? Is to keep what? Would it be to keep us in our homes? Yes. Keep us in our homes so we are not out on the street. Keep our property taxes low. We're vulnerable. We're seniors. We're making 20,000. Some of us not even making maybe 15,000.
Right.
But the threshold is 65. Well, those senior frees are being given to multi-million-dollar homeowners, again, in Winnetka, Glenwood, Kenilworth, the Gold Coast, the Gold Coast, Lincoln Park community. They're getting $23,000 to $25,000 to $4,000 off their tax bill.
Look,
let me give you one instance. There is a homeowner that owns a $5.3 million home in Winnetka, huge swimming pool, 8,000 square feet on an acre of land. Her tax bill is $110,000. Now listen here, okay, 110. None of us would even imagine having to pay $110,000 tax bill. But she applies for the senior fees and has applied for it for the last 7 years. She gets $23,000 off all the time. How can a person make only $65,000 and have a home with a tax bill that's 110 and it's brought down to 90,000 because they get the senior freeze? Somebody might not be auditing that very well, right?
That's right.
So we found millions of dollars in senior freeze going to the millionaires.
Okay, Andrea, the floor is open, ladies and gentlemen. I know you have questions for this young lady. I know. Roxy, what's up? What question do you have?
Well, I just want to thank our guest. What an unload of a lot of information. We're living in a time where that we know we have broken systems. What are we doing now to try to fix it? Because I can hear you talk about how the system is in proportionately in the favor of the rich. But how do we fix this broken system? What are we doing? What kind of legislation are we putting in place to try to combat the ills of the taxation?
Well, we did a study, and it's a group called TRAEN, Training Research and Advocacy and Education Network, and we put this 28-page study together, okay, with all of the appendix and all the mathematics, and we offered that study out, okay, to the media. The media wasn't so interested in it. So we also did a COVID study showing that all of these 1% of the wealthiest are getting these huge property tax breaks. And the media wasn't too interested in it. So we have to, as a coalition, go out and have a press conference and say, this is not right. But to take those two studies and put them into the legislature and reform the way senior freezes are given out, they got to have their income tax audited. Or at least you say, don't give a senior freeze to somebody that has $1 million home.
My other question, from your study and whatever you guys have concluded, have you figured out what works and what doesn't work so you know exactly where to cut things?
Absolutely. We would start with capping that when you try to apply for the senior freeze and you owned a $2 million home, and you say you only make 65,000, that should be audited, or they should stop that and stop anything that's over $1 million from getting a senior freeze.
Amen.
That makes sense.
80% of the people who get a senior freeze, their properties are from $60,000 to about $600,000. That's 80% of the people that get the freeze. And then it goes up from 7,000, 800,000, 900. But it's like that millions of dollars that should be not given out, because I don't think that if you own a home that's worth $7 million or $3 million, you're not part of the vulnerable. Do you feel vulnerable? I don't feel vulnerable if I had a home like that.
Let's ask TJ. Let's ask your question, brother. What's your question?
Well, I wouldn't say that I necessarily have a question. I'd like to thank you, Ms. Raila, for your information, as it will be beneficial to me running for the office that I'm running for in my school's LSC. I'd like to know where do you find your information? Where can I have access to this information, or where can people who really are interested in this topic find your information?
Well, we can send out the study. Maybe we should send, well, actually, I think we sent it to Wanda
Okay.
and to a couple of the people that are working on this. And we can do that. You can also contact the group TRAEN. And let me just type it into the chat room, but I'll first say the name. So it's TRAEN, TRAEN, and the number is 312-640-2436. So if you call that number and you say, I'm very interested in that study, those two studies, and I'm interested in advocating for legislation for some of those studies to get reform into the legislature, we'd like to have you on board. We want to have you as an advocate. And TJ, join us at the press conference.
Why to keep people there?
Join us at the press conference that we'll have in City Hall, 6 feet apart, whatever you want to do. But we need to get the word out.
All right.
It's terribly unfair.
Thank you, Andrea. Elizabeth, you had a question?
I just got something in the mail or email that said that the wealthiest people of the United States has just contributed to Social Security for the whole year, and the rest of their money, they don't have to put anything in because there's a cap, I guess, or something. But the wealthiest of the wealthy just contributed whatever they need to contribute in the month of January and February, so they don't pay any more, nothing else into Social Security. Whereas if they change the law, they would have to pay all through the year, because then it would be mandated that that you have to pay your fair share, and they don't right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whereas the average Joe has to pay into Social Security for the next 12 months. There's a loophole that says they only have to pay X amount of dollars.
So yeah, I think that there's unfairness from the top to the bottom, and it's got to be addressed. But we are the second highest property tax state in the nation, and it really, do you know that 79% of all whites can get a home, whereas only 37% of the Black and brown community can own a home. That's got to change.
That does.
How can you own a home when you got high property taxes that make your mortgage payments higher, and then you got exemptions that give the wealthiest the biggest property tax breaks, and there are property tax exemptions made for the most vulnerable. And the COVID cut that cut across the board, all of these, and I'm not saying we shouldn't have the COVID, we should get COVID cuts for anybody that is affected by the unemployment rate and have homes that are affected. But the reality is that the multi-million homes were not affected. And
right.
You can't give $25 million away like that to the wealthiest 1%. So I focus on, there's a lot of things that we can work on at a national level, but for me, I've got to focus on my local level and see how I can make it a better system for the Black and brown community that has the highest rate of delinquency, faces the highest tax rates, And no one out there is talking about advocating to make sure that, you know, we don't give our property tax breaks to the wealthiest. We don't give COVID tax breaks to the wealthiest. We don't give senior citizen and long-time exemptions for long-time homeowners. You don't give those away to these multi-million-dollar homes. Changing the law, Roxy, changing the law. The law should say, let them have it. Don't give them away to these multi-million-dollar homeowners.
You got two more people that want to speak. LaShawn James.
Yes, thank you, Wanda, and thank you, Andrea, and the tax doctor. You guys just have a wealth of information, and just listening to this, it has pissed me. I'm just totally, I'm speechless. I mean, to know that we work in, you know, hardworking residents of the state of Illinois who have born and raised here and given our lives and trying to make ends meet to keep a roof over our heads and food on our table. It's upsetting to know that there's millionaires who's getting a tax cut, where I got to go to the folks and try to appeal, and every time I'll appeal, I got to go through the red tape.
Yeah.
And then get a letter to say, sorry, you denied. That's upsetting.
Yeah.
And that should be, to hear this, I just hope that we can do some really strong strategic outreach to get the word out, because my neighbors, my community, my everybody we should be boots on the ground.
Yes.
We should be our legislators holding folks accountable, or not only accountable, but just working with them to say, what can we do and how can we do it? Not just having one press conference or here's a report every now and then. We should be boots on the ground, knocking on doors, that old school way of getting things done. And I'm gonna pause here. The same way that the government has identified who get a stimulus check, then we should identify who don't get a tax cut.
Come on now.
So I'm just saying, and I thank you so much for your research and for your energy and not just giving up and washing your hands, said, I'm done. So I thank you so much for your tireless time. And we just need to get the word out, and not just in sporadic here and there, but it should be ongoing. People need to hear the message, and people need to know we fired up and we ain't taking it no more.
We're not taking it no more.
And one last thing I want to say, where's that TJ?
Here he is.
I don't know you, TJ, but I'm keeping my eyes on you, brother. I like young folks, and I know talent when I see it. So I'm gonna keep my eyes on you.
We all keeping our eyes on him. We got our eyes on him. Miss Levette, you had a question for Andrea.
Good evening, Andrea, and all of your guests tonight. I have a comment about the people that we're electing. I think we should find out their position on tax cuts and what side they stand on, and really make that clear, because we're not going to have people vote on our behalf when it takes money out of their pockets.
Amen.
So we have to find out where the politicians, where their heart lies with this, because it's just like Trump giving all of the top wealthiest the largest cuts, and then they're silent. So as you were saying, all of these people that are taking advantage, they know it's not right. But it's like, if you were in their position, what would you do if someone's just handing you $25,000, $35,000, $40,000, $50,000?
Yeah.
And so if the system
Can
is
I
set up,
Levette, I agree with you, Levette, 100%. But I'll tell you something. Even those multi-million-dollar mansion owners, most of them don't even file a tax appeal because they don't need to file a tax appeal because they can afford their taxes. And they didn't even ask for these COVID cuts. I'm going to tell you, when I'm trying to get to as many communities as possible that have been harmed by this, and it's to let them know, but it's been hard because of COVID times. It's hard to get it out because, you know, when you talk about having a press conference, how are you going to do that, right? It's hard to be out there. But I think that we are making our voices heard in groups like this, and we got to keep thinking of other groups and mailing the study out to every alderman, state rep, and representative throughout the state.
I have a follow-up, Andrea. I have a follow-up. You were talking earlier about things that were happening within the county, and I think that we really need to hold them accountable because every COVID bill that I've seen coming from the county, coming from Cook County, it seems as though it goes to the wealthiest community. And for some reason, they're saying that they have the worst scenarios with COVID. And I know that Chicago started out with the high numbers and wound up getting put at the bottom of the list. Yeah. So we need to really bring these county elected officials to task.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. That study should go to all 18 Cook County Board Commissioners.
Wanda?
Yes, go ahead.
Let me make something perfectly clear.
Okay.
What we need to understand is that the governor had a task force for property tax relief. I was part of that task force. Andrea Raila was part of our coalition. LaShawn James out in Madison, her community held the first hearing, congressional hearing, coming out of Springfield. And what we need to understand crystal clear is that the problem about these taxes started back at the convention. And as I raised the question to the new chairman of the Black Caucus, Sandra Harper, did you read the minutes of the Constitutional Convention that got us into this mess? And, you know, her response was, no, I have not, because I just got too much other stuff to do.
My God.
And when you think about the legislators, and I didn't find this out until we worked with Representative Mary Flowers, who was the chairman of our committee. They don't have a staff back in their district. They only allocated so much money. And, you know, I'm thinking that they
Tell the truth. Tell the truth. Tell the truth.
I'm thinking they got a staff. They got all these people. And that ain't the case. And see, I go back when we had 2 legislators per district. And Pat Quinn had a referendum put on the ballot to chop it down to 1. And we all was in agreement to that. Okay, those that supported that move.
Because y'all thought y'all didn't know.
Well, I mean, I think not having all them legislators makes sense, because you have to pay them all and give them a pension. But all this stuff needs to be read and understood by these legislators. And a lot of them ain't trying to do no homework.
But the thing is,
go ahead.
And I got to share with you, it's just like you know taxes, but you don't know engineering.
Absolutely.
So wait a minute. So for us to expect one person to know everything is not fair. What has to happen is we have to have people that study in various fields. so that we are making the best decisions. As you see, you think it's pomp and circumstances, but it's not. It ain't no whole lot of people running around. It's a few people doing a lot of jobs.
That's true.
Just like
You're
everywhere else. And for us, as we've been talking, we got to continue to beat the drums. You get folk that are in finances to work on things. You get people that understand economic development. You get people to understand schools. So we have to make folk accountable, but we have somebody there in the gap because one person can't do everything.
That's true. I can tell you that. One person.
Well, keep in mind, folks, a miracle happened to the state of Illinois.
What was that?
And that miracle was the U.S. District Attorney who opened the books to the ComEd fiasco that got.
But how far is it gonna go? And so
how far? I think he's gonna end up getting indicted because the president tried to fire the dude.
Okay, but let's look at this.
Back.
Let's look at this. No matter what happened, over a 30-year span, Michael did his job, his thing.
Yes, he did.
All they're gonna do is indict him. If he spent some time, oh well. But it's not about Michael. As Sonia said, as people, this is the point where we're at. What are we gonna do?
What are we gonna do, y'all?
Well, you know what? Let me say this. I think historically,
I got some information for you, baby. I got information for you, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say that one thing for sure. I don't know these two ladies quite well. I know one's name is Harris. I don't know the other lady. I know her, but I just can't recall her name. And historically speaking, we are going to have a Black person to take over, a Black woman to take over Madigan's position.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
They already
now is that true? Is that true?
Where are you talking about? At the for the DNC party? I mean the Democratic Party?
No,
no. You talking about in charge of the Democratic Party? That's the only thing that's open.
Right. And it's Harris and the other lady
out of the 8th Ward.
And I think that
Robin Kelly is the other lady you're talking
about. They only named two today.
Right, so Robin Kelly.
It may be
Kelly and Harris. And so I think that any of these people, the Speaker of the House, any of these people that are in position to lead, then our voices need to just become stronger. And I think that having this kind of show, the best thing for us is to be knowledgeable of the circumstance, because sometimes we come to the table and we don't know all the facts. And so the more we know and the more it can be explained to us, then we're better at asking the questions. And then
that's why we get the experts to come to the table.
That's why we got Andrea.
I think that's my major point tonight, and listening to Andrea and discuss the issues. We, I think as a people, need to dial it back a little bit. We keep talking about the same legislators representing us that have been representing us, and we have this problem. Maybe, we need to get involved and identify other people who are a little more knowledgeable about what the issues are and how they can be fixed. Because we can talk all day long, and we usually do, on what the problem is and why the problem exists. I'm looking for the leaders that are ready to fix it.
Yeah.
And Sonia showed us that they ready. And it's up to us. One person can't do it by themselves. As the beginning, when we started this show, is that we have to go back to the basics. We got to tell people, we got to get people involved. When I started politics back in the day, they didn't have computers. They didn't have this Zoom technology. You told your neighbor told his neighbor, they told the cousin. We have to go back to that. And we have to hold folk accountable. And we have to get in there and dig. Back in the day, where they didn't have it, they got together and made it happen.
Yeah.
I have to do that. I agree with that. I think that we already know what the issues are. We are the experts.
Yes.
The bottom
Yes.
line, my
You're
tax
the one
bill is
having
the
the
expert.
experiences.
My tax
But
bill is
it takes us. It takes
Right.
us to work
Right.
together, share ideas. Now,
Yeah.
where you lacking, I might have what you need.
Yeah. But
And
I
if that
think
continues on down the line, we become self-sufficient within ourselves. And
right.
we
So
can do this.
I think that it goes back to we already know the facts. We need to strategically think
Okay, I
about
got you.
what's our next steps.
I am in total
Press conference, knocking on doors, protest.
But there are several things that we're trying to do, and we're gonna need help. We have to, and this is Wanda and our task, and any of you all that have additional time, we have to contact the radio stations for every college from the beginning of the state to the end of the state, so that as we're on this program, we have every bit of the state with us. And so as we're sharing, that information is everywhere. We're talking that, so as long as we're sharing across, it's the work, we beating them drums. We have to always think of beating those drums to get us moving. If we waiting on somebody else to come save us, we ain't gonna be saved. We got Jillian. You want to make a comment? We got to give everybody a chance to talk to Andrea.
This is Mariah.
Well, I just agree with Ms. Roxy as to, at some point you have to be about the action and not talk about it.
Yes. Yes.
I agree that you need to reach out to the younger generations and get them involved. Let them know what's going on. Let them fight the battle. They're the ones that are going to be the homeowners coming up. Right. They're the ones that's going to be affected by this. So you need to get them in there and have them have a voice and fight for this.
We
also
got colleges. That's why we got I have the list of colleges. We just got to start calling them and make sure they're on the line every week.
Pleasure meeting you and seeing you, and to the group as well. But everyone is saying a lot of things that are all good and all well. But I think what we're missing is a plan B. If everyone, what they're saying is a plan A, we need a plan B. What's the plan B? Plan B is for people like TJ. We need to start bringing up the young brothers and sisters to begin to address the issues and get them on the inside, build up a block to support them and get them in positions where they can take the action that's needed to make change.
Right. I agree with that. Total agreement. That's why we got to carry the mantle. Start with these colleges, and TJ is going to be our mascot because he is the young man that's on fire, and we got to keep his fire lit. All right. And he can bring more young men with us. So our goal is to educate and motivate. So again, anybody that got time to help us get these names and numbers and contact these schools. And each NAACP that's in every district, there's Black people. Let's get our library. Yeah, we get them all. And TVs, we have public access across the nation, so we should contact these stations and get our message across. Yes, sir.
There's one thing you and Glenda and I talked about. Well, I didn't talk to you, but I talked to Glenda about this.
Okay.
We were going to get a survey together that for people who want to run for politics. And which is needed to make sure that they are representing the community in which they're coming from, in the needs of the community. But also, TJ, we need to have young women as well, working with TJ. So that is my comment.
All right, we're in agreement with you. Yeah, Sandra, I know you have a comment and a statement for Andrea. Andrea, we got you popping tonight. Everybody loves what you're talking about. And Anthony, you've been bringing it home ever since. Tonight, you gonna shine, my brother.
I appreciate you. I appreciate all of you.
Sandra?
Good evening. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to, I wasn't logged in with Andrea. I was actually, had another appointment, but I have heard the conversation regarding where we go now as far as representation and ensuring that we have representatives to fight for our causes and support our needs.
Yes.
One of the things is it Thomasay?
say?
Thomas say, I'm willing to, I've got a little bit of time. I'm willing to help you all with compiling that list and contacting those colleges.
Excellent, excellent.
That's not a hard thing to do. But the other thing is to ensure that we have a plan. I agree with the gentleman. He didn't say his name, even though Jean is his wife. We don't want to keep calling you Jean. I agree with him with regard to a plan B. Young people, when you bring them on board, you have to give them everything in a nice package. They are not going to wait for you to get it together to give to them. You're going to lose them with that. So I strongly recommend that they utilize some of the coordinating skills that SEIU and they have asked me that they utilize when they're campaigning to make sure that this stuff is readily available and that you have it in a language that they understand, and also showing how it affects them. Everyone gets involved when they see how it can benefit or affect them. If you fail to get their participation, it's because we haven't shown how it's important to them.
So Sandra, let me catch you up. On our second show, we had LaShawn Ford on.
Yes.
And LaShawn Ford discussed an executive order to be able to give Black communities across the state the funding that they require. Now, in that, also, Wanda has some footage of him saying, yes, he owes our community, he's going to give some money. So the premise, why we're getting these colleges and continue to share information is some of the laws that they have are written. So by the time LG Sims came on, he told us additional pots of money with these pillars that comes along with this new bill of police reform. So in that, we are trying to continue to get out the information, get a petition to get enough of us across the state so that in certain communities, they begin to design that plan. What do you need? I can't tell you what you need in East St. Louis. So we need them folks down in East St. Louis to start talking. We need the people up in Rockford to start talking. So that's why I'm saying we start with the colleges. We get the NAACPs involved. The money's on the table. As Sonia came on last week, she told us additional pots of money. So there's lots of money in agriculture. We ain't never talked about that before. We've never talked about some of the solar money that's out there. So we want to get folk together so they can start doing what they need to in their communities. In Evanston, which is interesting, they giving out reparations, $25,000 a piece. So there are a lot of ideas. There are a lot of ideals that we have to begin to share and talk amongst us. There's a Black woman out there who got that started. So as we beat these drums and get people to the table, those ideals come as we bring these additional elected officials in or people that's running programs that's funding wise. Actually today, I found out that Senator Patrick Joyce is doing a grant writing, grant writing program virtually. And he's bringing some experts from, excuse me, y'all. So I want to share that. So the ideal is to share ideals. So the more people are here, the more ideals that we can bring to the table and folk to the table to take care of our people. So it's called Access Grant Writing. It's from 11 to 12:15 Saturday. I'm going to share that information with Wanda, and Wanda's going to put it up. So they have the director of the grant writing program, director of operations, Arnold Julian. So they got people to help. And I said, when I saw the vet, to tell her, one of the things we haven't used is agriculture money. She says Garfield Park has 180 acres. Think of what we can do with that or what can be done with that.
Yes. Yes, yes.
Sonia
Man.
is the Sonia is the chair in the House for Agriculture.
Oh, yes, she is. She
And
is.
can I just interject, Thomas say, because I think in every category that we're talking about, we're talking about politics, and we're talking about the partnerships that we need to bring to the table. And just as though you recommended Sonia as the agricultural contact.
No, I didn't say she the contact, baby. She ain't the only contact.
No, I know, but listen to what I'm saying is that to have the partners listed, to list all of the partners that you're going to need to come to the table with you. And she's the name that you gave me as agriculture that we need. So all
she's categories. One person. Okay.
Right.
And I'm in agreement.
Right.
But
and so in business,
I'm not
in business.
Wait, so that you understand that I'm not one tunnel vision.
I'm not saying that you are, Thomas. That you're misunderstanding me. I'm saying I'm in agreement with you, and that partnership is important. She's one entity under agriculture that we need, but we need all natural resources. We need safety. We have our categories, and the partnership is what's going to make it work.
So let me tell you some of the people I've met down here. I know people in natural resources. I got two brothers, two Black men that teach fishing, hunting, twice a year. Black men, been doing it 20 years. Natural resources, a different pot of money over agriculture. So those are two different pots. My boss is on the agriculture committee. So I'm saying there's people that we just haven't brought to the table yet. As time goes on, they're gonna come to the table because
but you know what? Can I say this? Can I just say one more thing? Can I say one more thing? We also have to know why we need to bring them to the table. So we have to be clear on what our product is. And so when we're clear about that, because we're talking about a lot of things, and Andrea is the tax person,
and
so
we need to get back and focus on Andrea.
And
I wanted to make one comment. I like Thomas's idea, like we've got to brainstorm and come up with some good things that we can do out of this. How about doing something that's super bold? Let me throw out an idea, okay? None of these people take us seriously because they don't see the tax bills coming down. The first installments are out. These big tax cuts are going to come on the second installment tax bills of all these multi-million-dollar millionaires. Now, let me just say one thing. Who is the governor of this state?
A billionaire.
Is he a billionaire?
Yes, he is.
He is a billionaire. Okay, that's number one. How much is his house? It's $14 million. How much is his tax bill on that house? It's $250,000. He doesn't file a tax appeal on his house. He doesn't need to. He's a billionaire. But the assessor gave him a COVID tax cut, and $25,000 is coming off his tax bill. And I say that we get out in front of his house when that tax bill arrives on July 1st, and we've got a copy of it, and it's $25,000 less. And we get TJ out there with us and say, Governor, did you ask for this tax break? Well, no, I didn't.
Well, then give the money back.
Then give the money to TJ. Give the money to
TJ.
I'm going. Give it to the school.
Listen.
But let me say this. Even if we did that, if we don't have people standing there asking for the same tax break, then we ain't just trying to shame him. We want the same. So if we're gonna do demonstrations, let's do a demonstration so we all benefit.
Yeah, but we can all take our tax bills, and our tax bills are only going to be $500 left. It's only going to be.
I agree.
Hold on.
Can we back up a little bit? One of the things we were talking about as far as organizing, because I got my hand up, had it up for a minute. My thing is to get with Thomas say again, and I'm talking with Lavette. There needs to be some structure about what we're going to present and show as stakeholders. As you identify the stakeholders, you then identify their needs. And then doing a short needs assessment
for each of the areas that the stakeholders reside, and then having that presented as a summary, again, with a quote or estimate of what part of the $1 billion that we think would benefit that community. That is part of the way forward. We need to get together, the three of us, and have a conversation outside of your show. I'm sorry, Andrea, didn't mean to take away the taxation, but I would like to take the time for us to have a conversation and get together and talk about, again, like you said, same with the college students, identifying the leaders in that area, going to the churches, and actually coming up, identifying stakeholders, have those stakeholders do a needs assessment, have them summarize that assessment along with their monies that they think they need. And then we plan that way forward of presenting it as a whole package to the powers that be. So I just wanted to say that before we got too far along, and didn't get a chance to say it before we concluded. So let's get together sometime and during this week or even next week. I mean, it just could be a short phone call. It could be a phone call, it could be another Zoom conversation.
And Sandra, I just want to say this for the ladies, please pay attention to the young lady that talked about the partnerships. You know, we're stronger together, united. It really annoys me to no end to see a bunch of us jump out there, think we know the issue, and we're just all over the place. If you're going to deal with politicians, laws, and legislation, you've got to be very focused. You've got to be very organized, and you have to know what you plan to leave the table with. That's all I want to say.
Let me say this, folks. I'm holding up a copy of the report that came from our committee on property tax relief. And I tell you, it was probably one of the most powerful reports, 62 pages that was put together. And the folks down in Springfield, they saw it. And they even made a comment that they was blown away when they saw this report. But you know what, folks? We have 102 counties in this state.
Yes.
We only need 50. We got 856 school districts. We only need 6. That 856 school districts cost us $18 billion in property taxes.
And that's where
we have 7,000 units of government that cost us $30 billion a year in property taxes. That's where our money is going. It is insane. And the reason, let me put this out here. Representative Sam Yangley, when they put out the Democratic report, in that report, they told us, because they got other elected officials who have friends, family members, contracts, vendors, is the reason why they can't
that earlier. Right.
And folks, I'm here to tell you that grandma and grandpa is losing a property in Cook County like crazy. And Maria Pappas got Black House Matters. Well, apparently Black House Matters don't matter to the folks in Springfield.
That's right. This is what matters. Does this look like the Black House that you live in?
Nope.
This is a $5 million home. And this homeowner with that beautiful swimming pool out in Glencoe has now saved $143,000 over the last 7 years because they get a senior freeze. And they are only supposed to be making $65,000 when their tax bill is already $100,000. Here's another.
Somebody lying.
Does this look like a house in need where she gets $30,000 in tax reductions? Does that look like a house in need to you?
No.
Doesn't look like a house in need to me, but then she gets all of this money off because she's a senior.
And
I
all
can
of
go
us have
on and on. Beautiful.
But I think some of these people, they know that this stuff is not right, and they're dealing with a fake reality that is winning for them. And so there's a voice that we have to roar. And if we understand that, then I'm willing, whatever table that I need to come to, because as Sandra was saying, the partnerships that we're creating to restore Garfield Park, we're asking everybody to come to the table, because just like Thomas A was saying, you got to have the experts. I'm not a project development manager. I need to bring one to the table. Yes. I'm not a natural resource expert on trees. I need to bring that person to the table. So we're reaching out to everyone, because Garfield Park is the most
beautiful. It's
beautiful park on the west side.
Beautiful.
184 acres, and we are going to.
That's
make sure.
my home park.
I know. I know. So I know.
And I say to all you ladies, all that's fine, but that don't mean a hill of beans and grandma and grandpa losing their damn property. That's what I want y'all to understand.
But didn't Preckwinkle make a fast track when you don't pay your taxes? So we need to go back a few years to her policy.
Yes,
there was a fast track that she put in place that made the west side and the south side lose their homes. So I think because maybe we didn't put her in office, I don't know if there's some vindictiveness going on, but we need to say enough is enough, because it's about the people. It's not about how you feel, who put you in. You still have to be that representative for all the people.
And there is a 7 o'clock Zoom coming in. I put it up on the chat. That's going to be talking about these property taxes again with a lawyer and a trustee from Olympia Fields.
I don't see it. Wanda, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, everybody's talking about, this is what I don't, and I just talked to a young man that's 21 years old, and I am trying to make him understand that the taxes that they pay I looked at a house in Frankfurt. The house was reasonable. And at the time, the person that I was getting ready to get married to, he said, we can't move here. And I said, but the house is reasonable. He said, baby, it's not the house. If we paid cash for the house, we still wouldn't be able to afford the taxes every year. I want to know, why is it that Dalton and all the suburbs south pay exorbitant amount of taxes on the little pieces of property that they have, and these big houses out in Frankfurt?
They small communities.
Well, you have to understand
they have to pay for themselves.
The 3 Cook County assessors that we have had, going back to Thomas Hine, who spent 18 years in that office, he was the first assessor who started to undervalue property and undervalue commercial property. And then he picked Houlihan to be his assessor. So Houlihan said he was going to fix it. But he was just as bad. And then when we put Joe Barrios in, and I interviewed him on my TV show twice, I did not know he was going to be a damn snake. But he turned out to be a damn snake.
You find out. They don't start out that way.
You're absolutely correct.
You get in that
game, and so Barrios started to devalue our property. Well, say overvalue our property, overassess our property, and then he overtaxed us.
Yep.
And so Dr. Christopher Berry from the University of Chicago said it was the worst case of institutional racism he ever seen, and Barrios stole $2.5 billion from our community tax-wise, and nobody got us our money back yet.
And you heard it here on the Chicago Communicator News Media, and we're closing. We're at the 7 o'clock hour. We'll have to invite you back, Andrea.
Okay.
We'll have to invite you back, Anthony.
Andrea, if you need somebody to work with you, get my number from Wanda.
Okay.
What?
Wanda, give her my number. She needs somebody to work with her. I mean, I'm good at knocking on doors. God knows I did the census.
All right. Andrea, you got a whole crew coming to your door. We're going to be working.
We got to get that money back from those people. We got to get that money back.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, have a good one. We'll see you next time.
All righty.
6 o'clock.
Thank you, all you ladies.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.